So, how many of you guys remember what the name of the series is that we're on? We're on week 2.
Declare war.
It's one word before that. What letter?
I.
I declare war. Turn to your neighbor and say, I declare war.
I declare war.
That's right, you better. You better. So, how many of you guys are old enough to remember watching TV in the days before DVR even existed?
Yeah.
Or DVR existed? Dane, I don't think so.
No
Dane,
I was raising my hand for my dad.
So back in the day,
He's old.
when you're watching TV, alright, this is before like Netflix was a thing. This is before TiVo. What?
Oh, Netflix.
Yeah.
Redbox.
Yes, when Netflix was literally where they mail a DVD to your house, and you had like a week to send it back.
Redbox.
So yeah, Redbox. Oh man,
Blockbuster.
I would drive all over Urbandale to go to the different Redboxes to find the movie that I wanted.
But
So back in the day, we didn't have TiVo or DVR or anything. So if you were watching a show and it went to a commercial break, you had to be back. Like if you had to like go do something like pee, poop, make some food, you had to be back before the commercial was over because you couldn't press the rewind button, right? So when like if I was watching like SpongeBob or Saved by the Bell or something, it was commercial and I was cutting mustard to get to the kitchen or the toilet or whatever. And how many guys love Eggo waffles?
Yes.
Alright?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Eggo waffles, they smack, right? They smack. So you can cook Eggo waffles or at least make them like warm in about 2 minutes. And usually the TV break was about like 3.5 minutes. So what I would do is during one TV break, I'd pull them out of the freezer and I'd set them on the counter so they'd start like de-thawing. Then on the next TV break, I'd run, drop them in the toaster, press the button down, and as soon as they came out, it was like butter really quick, like lather with peanut butter and syrup, and then you run back and you finish your show. Well, how many of you guys know that when you eat a lot of peanut butter, it makes you thirsty, right? So I'm sitting there, I'm watching like SpongeBob. This is like season 1 or 2, right? This is like way back in the OG days, and I'm just like dying of thirst. But I gotta wait until it's a commercial. So commercial hits, I like run out to the kitchen and I just like grab the carton of milk. This is probably when I'm like 7 or 8, and I grab this like carton of milk and I just like chug it. I see it's like in the back of the fridge, but I'm just gonna chug it. I'm drinking it and I'm like, I'm already like a couple gulps in, and I'm like, this has a funny texture to it.
Oh no.
And then I'm like, this tastes disgusting. And I look inside of it and smell it. It was like weeks expired milk. I don't know how it was still in there. But I threw my guts up in the sink. It was pretty stinking nasty, and I was just like so grossed out. I didn't want to drink milk for like months after that. And I was just like deeply disturbed and scarred from like this vile, disgusting thing that had come into my mouth that day. It was just so gross. And in the Gospel of Matthew, here I'm going to transition. The Gospel of Matthew, Jesus tells us something. I'm still stumbling over my words. Jesus tells us that there's actually something that's much more dangerous than eating or drinking something that's bad, and it's speaking something that's bad. And in Matthew chapter 15, verses 10 through 11, it says, "Then Jesus called to the crowd to come and hear. He said, 'Listen and try to understand. It's not what goes into your mouth that defiles you. You are defiled by the words that come out of your mouth.' And that's why if we're going to win the war against ourselves, if we're going to declare war, we have to learn how to speak like a wolf. And that's the reason why last week I said, there is a devil in the world, and yeah, those things can make you sin, and those things are bad, but the reality is we're our own worst enemy. We're our own worst enemy. And one of the most threatening fronts that this shows up in our lives is in the words that we speak. And the words that you speak can sabotage the life that Jesus died for, like few other things. Now, you're probably sitting there like, what does it take to speak like a wolf? What are you saying? Is that just like a catchy thing? And I did a little bit of research before I wrote this. And now wolves, when you think about a wolf, what do you think of usually?
Ow.
Think of a howl. Thank you, Dane. That was good. All right, give me your best howl. Let's hear it. Nice. Got a wolf pack in here. That would be our team name at camp. We're wolf pack. That was way better than I thought. I thought it was just gonna be like Dane and Drake Bowman giving me a howl. But I'm thoroughly impressed with you guys. So, when I was doing research, did you guys know that when wolves howl, they try and do something called dissonance? Anybody of you guys know what dissonance is? Probably not. I didn't know what dissonance was either. I had to Google it. So, what dissonance is, what that means is they're attempting to be pitchy on purpose. The wolves are attempting to be pitchy on purpose. And some of you guys are sitting here tonight, you're like, oh man, the person sitting right next to me must be a wolf because they're really pitchy. And I heard them singing, Let There Be Light, and they were low-key garbo, all right? They're buns. And so basically the reason why wolves do this, the reason why they don't try and harmonize is because it makes them appear as though they're more numerous, right? Because if they all howled at the same time and at the same pitch, it's going to be one united sound. But when you hear them in this thing called dissonance, you can't tell. You're like, is there 5 of them? Is there 50 of them? So it makes it sound like there's way more of them than there are. But that's not the only thing that wolves use to communicate. It also says that they can communicate with scent. It says that they can communicate with body language. And I found that basically wolves have so many more ways to communicate than just by howling, in way more ways than most animals do. And another cool thing, it says that they have very, very facial structures. Like they can make a bunch of different faces that other wolves can see. And wow, that was nice. And it says that wolves are constantly interacting with each other, right? Because wolves are always in a pack. They're constantly interacting, they're constantly communicating with one another, not just through their howling, but through their facial expressions. And it says that they can even communicate with their tails. How many of you guys wish you could have a tail? I honestly think it'd be cool. Like Jumanji, comes out. I don't know, I just said that, that's weird. Anyways, it says that they communicate, and it's a way that they can affirm their family bonds. And it says that they're basically able to stay united very well because of the way that they communicate. Have you guys ever heard the saying, the strength of the wolf is the pack, and the strength of the pack is the wolf? The reason why they're so strong as a pack is because of the way that they communicate. But when it does come to howling, it says that a wolf's howl can be heard up to 10 miles away. 10 miles away. That's a really long ways, guys. And, when we speak about our communication as a person, we're not capable of, communicating up to 10 miles away, right? Not even close. But the experts say that the average human speaks 5,000 words a day. 5,000 words a day. That's a lot, right? And like a wolf, we can communicate non-verbally too. Experts also say that only 7% of humans' communication is the words themselves. Only 7% of the way that we communicate with people is actually the words that we speak. And that leaves 93% of what we say each day being our body and the tone in which we communicate. How many of you guys know that body language means a ton, right? Body language means a ton. And that honestly puts us in a detriment these days, in the days of Instagram comments, and text messages, and DMs and stuff, right? Because you're seeing all those words, but you don't know at face value what is said in that conversation. How many of you guys hate having text conversations? Maybe that's just me. But if I'm ever trying to have more than just a surface level conversation or a yes/no answer, I just want to call them on the phone. Kirsten will be texting me, asking me all these questions and wants to know my feelings about something, and I just always instantly call her. I'm I'm not texting about this because you can't hear her tone of voice. In FaceTime you can see her facial expressions, right? But we live in this world where so much of it is on Snapchat through DMs or Instagram comments or texting or whatever. So we have to realize that there's incredible power in our words. There's incredible power in our words, and we have a lot. And words are weighty. I want you guys to say that. Words are weighty.
Words are weighty.
Words are weighty. In fact, they're so weighty, and they should become more weighty to you guys. Okay, this is valuable, right? When you go to a Christmas party where they do the white elephant, and part of your strategy when you go out there in the center to pick up your gift, you try and pick up the one that's heavy, right? Or at least I do. Because usually something that's heavy, it's something that's important. Of course, someone might be a dingus and put like a brick in there at the bottom, to try and throw people off. But generally speaking, when you think of something being heavy, it's powerful, it's expensive, it's worth something, right? And it's the same way with our words. Our words are weighty, they're powerful, and they mean something. And this should sober you up right now to think that to know that all 5,000 of those words on average that you guys speak a day, all of those are powerful and they mean something. All the communications that come through your thumbs, on your phone, on Instagram, on Snapchat, on whatever it is, texting. The Bible says that one day you will all be held accountable for every single idle word that's spoken. Every single word that you guys will ever speak, you'll be held accountable for it in front of God. Right? That's tough. That's tough. How many guys have said a lot of dumb stuff in your life?
Yeah.
Both hands up. I say dumb stuff all the time. I've said like 50 dumb things today that God's going to be like, why did you say that? You said poop while you were preaching, dummy. And the reality is, at the end of your life, you're going to stand before God, and it's not going to be to determine whether or not you're getting into heaven or whether or not you make it into heaven, but it will be to speak about your place in heaven. And I don't think that in church or in youth enough we talk about rewards, but the Bible's very clear. We talk so much about getting to heaven, which obviously is accomplished only through Jesus, because Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through me. So you can't earn your way to heaven, but the Bible does say, it says, as His sons and daughters, the way we live our lives, that it does have a one-to-one impact on our reward in heaven. So a part of that is going to be us giving an account for the words that we spoke. God wants you to understand your words are weighty, and they do matter, and they're important. And how you'll be rewarded in heaven, it can be even what job you get in heaven. Maybe, you believe in Jesus and you accept He's your Savior, but you got a horrible potty mouth and you're constantly putting people down. All right, you're going to be a toilet scrubber in heaven. All right, you're going to be vacuuming the sidewalks in heaven. No, I'm just kidding. I just made that up. But, it could determine the clothes that you wear in heaven. You're probably like, dude, that is so dumb. Determine the clothes you wear in heaven? But seriously, the Bible literally says these in heaven are wearing the righteous acts of the saints. So what you're weaving on earth is what you're going to be wearing in heaven. Alright, that's the reality. I know it's not talked about a lot in church, but the Bible is very clear that you have rewards in heaven based on how you act here on earth. And a big part of that is the words and how you talk to people. Imagine you're standing before God one day, right? And He pulls up all your texts. He pulls up the text messages to your brother or your sister. And, it's Tommy. He's like, hey, yo, Cole, you're doo-doo at Call of Duty. I had to carry you tonight. Or it's Drake, and he's like, hey, yo, Chase, I bodied you in lacrosse tonight, or whatever. And God's going to, hey, what's this? What's this? He's going to hold you accountable. Now, obviously, those are a joke, but seriously, you guys are going to be held accountable for every single thing that you say. God's going to pull up your Snapchat DMs. All right, even the ones that you think go away after you read them. He's gonna pull out those Snapchat pictures that you sent, or the Snapchat pictures that you asked for. He's like, hey, what's this? What's this? I know you thought that it went away. I know you thought that, just because he didn't screenshot it, it just evaporated. What's this? You guys are going to be held accountable for that. And listen, I'm not saying that God's going to be doing that, with a harsh eye. But God's going to have the mentality of, listen, I gave you this powerful gift. How did you use it? What did you do with it? What did you do with this powerful gift that I gave you? In Matthew chapter 12, verse 36, it says, and I tell you this, you must give an account on Judgment Day for every idle word that you speak. I love this quote. It's by Eugene Peterson, who's this famous Bible translator. How many of you guys have ever heard of the Message translation? So it's this translation that was made, it's not necessarily the most word for word accurate, but it was specifically created for the average person to be able to understand Scripture better. He was one of the main translators, and he said every one of these careless words is going to come back to haunt you. There will be a time of reckoning. Geesh, if we can get that up on the screen, I got that quote. It's by Eugene Peterson. It should be the next one. There it is. You guys can read it. Now listen, that's a gnarly quote, right? That's intense. It's like, geez, every single thing that I've said I'm going to be held accountable for. Yes, guys, your words are that powerful, so we need to take it more seriously. It should be gnarly because God gave you something so powerful and He wants you to use it for good and not for evil. This is my sermon in a sentence. If Jesus is the Lord of your life, then he needs to be the Lord of your lips too. If Jesus is the Lord of your life, and you guys say that, you guys sing that in your songs on Wednesday night, he needs to be the Lord of your lips too. And it shouldn't just be, well, Jesus is the King of my heart. When we sing that song, King of my heart, and it's by Bethel, and they're going off with the drums and vocals. It's great. Listen, Jesus needs to be the Lord of your lips too. Point 1, your words impact other people. Your words impact other people. If we get it up on the screen, there it is. No, that's not it. That's what I just said. There we go. Your words impact other people. And you're like, because we might say to ourselves, oh, it's cool, I was just messing around, like they're my friend, I was just teasing them, I didn't mean that, no offense, bro. But the reality is you totally just ripped into someone. You totally just crushed their self-esteem. You totally just mocked someone. And I think that we're in such just a sarcastic and mocking culture, and we can be so quick to kind of make ourselves feel comfortable by tearing someone else down. And when I feel like I'm not at ease, I need to assert my place into this moment or this conversation, and the easiest, cheapest way to do that is just to say something at someone else's expense. Right? And what we're saying is, aren't I important? Don't I matter because I'm putting this person down? Let me just tell you something. There's a better way to get there. Instead of doing that, bless someone. Encourage someone. Build someone up. That's the kind of person that's always in demand. Now listen, let me tell you something. How many of you guys have ever heard the saying, if I got one finger pointed at you, I've got 3 pointed back at me? Listen, for this, I got 0 pointed at you and 10 back at me, because this has always been my Achilles heel. I grew up in a family with all boys and all boy cousins and a bunch of crude guy friends. So I just kind of grew up, just tossing insults at people, and I was always like, oh, it's a sign that you love them. But listen, the reality is, your words are important, and it might just be a joke to you, but the reality is, it could be hurting someone, it could be crushing someone, because your words are powerful. And I'm going to be held accountable for everything that I've said. Listen, just because I'm up here speaking doesn't mean that it's any different from you guys. I'm going to be held accountable for everything that I say. So maybe I'm going to be a poo-poo scrubber. But just let that sink in, guys. Your words are weighty, they're powerful, they mean something. Paul writes in Ephesians chapter 4, if we can get that up on the screen, he says, watch the way you talk. Let nothing foul or dirty come out of your mouth. Say only what helps. Each word is a gift. So ask yourself the question before you're about to speak to somebody. Is this a gift? Is what I'm giving them right now a gift? When you open up your mouth to speak, let other people feel like that. Let your family or your friends or your brother or your sister or your teammates feel like you just handed them a gift and you received, or they just received a present from you when you talk. Proverbs 18:21 says, words kill, words give life. They're either poison or fruit. You choose. Listen, guys, you do this every single time you talk. You choose whether you spit venom or you choose whether you're going to speak a gift, something that can give life. Then we see again in Colossians chapter 4, verse 6, it says, let every word you speak be drenched with grace and tempered with truth and clarity. It says, let it be drenched with grace. Now, if you guys don't know what grace is, the definition of grace is an unmerited favor, by the way. So grace is not ever deserved. So you guys can't have the excuses, oh, but you don't know the half of it. But you don't know what they said to me. But you don't know what they said to someone else. Listen, it says grace, which is an unmerited favor. So grace is something that someone doesn't deserve. So let the way that you drench someone with grace, you do it to someone who doesn't deserve it. You don't just be nice to people who are nice back to you. Alright? Grace is an unmerited favor. You guys need to give them grace because it's something that they're unwilling to give, and it's probably something that they desperately need. Alright? Hurt people hurt people. Back to wolves a little bit. So one of the books that I was reading online in preparation to writing this sermon, it's a book called Wisdom of Wolves. And it was by these 2 researchers who spent 6 years living among a wolf pack. That's commitment, right? That's dedication. To spend 6 years studying a pack of wolves. They literally lived amongst them for 6 years so they can learn it. And it was the most extensive study ever done. And from the inside out, they learned all about the wolves' behavior and their tendencies. And one of the things that they said about the howl I love, they said that the wolf often uses the howl as a way to get the members of the pack worked up and excited before they go out on a hunt. I just think that's so cool. So I just got to thinking about what that's like. So, you got one wolf, his name's like Buddy or something, and say the other wolf's name is Bubba, and Bubba's just not really feeling it, and they see like a pack of caribou, and Buddy's like, whoo! He's like, come on, let's go, there's a caribou, we gotta go on a hunt. And Bubba's like, oh man, I don't know. And then his friends, Paco and Rico and Dingo are like, oh! And he's like, all right, let's go, I'm ready to go. Right, they're like his hype man, right? Hey, play that video back there. When I think of a hype man, when I think of like one person starting, like going off and then everyone else gets crazy, I think of this video. Crank it. You guys seen this before. You guys know it's hype. This is what I thought of. We did that before every single game. Listen, it didn't matter if we were playing, the worst team, Des Moines East, where it's a bunch of kids who, are horrible at football. We're playing against Dowling Catholic, the 8-time defending state champions. Listen, when we sang that song in the locker room and we're getting hyped up, everyone's flipping off the light switches, people banging their head against the lockers. Oh, listen, I didn't care who we were playing. We were getting hyped up. We were going in there ready to kill someone. All right? So that's what wolves do. It says when they howl in a pack, they said that they use it to hype up the other wolves, right? It's awesome. And I just wonder, do the people in your life feel like that, when you open up your mouth and howl at them, does that cause them to feel excited and cause them to feel, ready to do what God's called them to do? When you do that, when you try and hype up, say the people in this room, your close friends in this room, when you speak to them, do you think that it's like, causing them to believe, the best is yet to come and that God is for them and not against them? Do you guys encourage the people that you're sitting next to right now? Maybe the person you're sitting next to, you're like, I don't even know what their name is. But the people in this room that you are friends with, is that the way that you speak to them? Seriously, think about that. Listen, we can either do bullets or bricks. You guys can either shoot bullets at people, or you guys can help them lay bricks to build their confidence and build their self-esteem and build who God sees them to be. There's a couple of quotes that I want you guys to see. One's by John Watson. It says, be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle. Be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle. And the next one's by Mark Twain. It says, I can live for 2 months on a good compliment. I can live for 2 months on a good compliment. Guys, we got to be generous with praise, and we got to be stingy with criticism. And I got to thinking, when I was writing this in my life, about how there's been different words that have stuck with me, right? There's been words that have been spoken to me that maybe weren't so kind, and maybe they weren't even intended in a mean way, in a super mean way, but they just stuck with me. How many of you guys know I got some bushy eyebrows, yo?
Yep.
Listen, they can say some caterpillars. Thanks, Dad. Appreciate it. And
I like them.
oh, thanks, Tommy. And hey, that's what I'm talking about, man. That's what I need. And when I was about 13 or 14, Instagram had just came out. All right, like literally just came out. Like I'll show you guys screenshots of what Instagram looked like when you guys were like 3. It looks way different now. And I remember one of the first pictures that I posted, like 3 or 4 of my friends commented on my bushy eyebrows. And those of you guys that don't know, when I was like 13, I looked like a little muskrat. All right, a naked mole rat. Thank you. And I had this buzz cut, this big old head, looking like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and these bushy eyebrows. Super insecure, got bullied a ton. And listen, they were my friends, and I remember they commented that. They commented on my bushy eyebrows, and I was already so insecure that I deleted the picture, and I didn't want to post a picture of my, up close of my face for a long time. And I know that sounds super dumb, but listen, I was an insecure little 8th grader. I'm sure some of you guys can relate. And those comments, you know, it might have not seemed like a big deal. So like, oh, like I'm sort of friends with Peyton. I can make fun of his eyebrows. And you know, of course, I laughed about it to their face, but really, that hurt me. And then I can also think of examples of life-giving words. How many of you guys know I was in JROTC when I was in high school? If not, that's okay. So JROTC is this military organization because I didn't want to be a youth pastor. I wanted to go into the special forces and I wanted to kill people. All right, that's what I wanted to do. God had different plans, but I joined JROTC and I was on the Raider team, which is this competitive team where we do all sorts of different events. We do like 10K Ruck Marches, we do litter carry runs, we do shooting, we do like a whole bunch of stuff. And the first event of the day, this is my first ever Raider meet. Again, little muskrat man. And I'm like a freshman, and I'm young for my grade, and I'm on this team of 8 people, and I've been training for months and months and months leading up to this. Everyone else on my team, it was like a bunch of seniors who were like rocked out, were already in the Army. All right, most of the guys on my team were like 6'2", like 200, just beefcakes. And I was this little tiny muskrat, 90 pounds. And the first event of the day was the 10K Ruck March. All right, so you're running with a rucksack and full ACUs and boots. And I got to the point where I like blacked out with maybe like half a mile left. I was just dead. I had nothing left in the tank. And I let my team down because, we still ended up finishing first in the event, but it ended up making our run like 3 minutes slower because they had to slow down and they like basically had to carry me. And I remember I went up to my first sergeant, who's dead now, but he was alive at the time. And I told him, I was like, he was like one of the guys I looked to more than anything because he said stuff like this to me. I was like, hey, I'm sorry I let you down. You know, I let the team down. I'm sorry I let you down. And he's like, no, I'll never forget it. He said, no, buddy. He's like, you're tougher than woodpecker lips. Woodpecker lips, think about it. And he's like, look around. He's like, you're half the size of all these guys out here. You're 4 years younger. He's like, you're a leader. People look up to you. You're going to be a leader for the rest of your life, and people are going to look up to you for the rest of your life. You're going to do great things. That stuck with me. All right, that was 8 years ago, I think. Yeah, 8 years ago. It was my freshman year of high school. That stuck with me, and that's something, that just goes to show you how important your words are. Because at the same time, those mean words that were said to me, even though they don't hurt my feelings now, because I know I got bushy eyebrows, those words stuck with me. So your words that you might just be saying as a joke, or you might just think it's, you just complimenting someone and saying, hey, you're great, you're going to do great things. You might not think that either of those things are a big deal, but the reality is both of those things have stuck with me for 8 years, and now I'm talking about it to you guys. Your guys' words are important, they're powerful, they carry weight, your words are weighty. Yeah. Second point, your words impact the future. Your words impact the future. Your guys' words can literally alter the course of history as the future is changed because of how you speak. So, no big deal, but really, really big deal, really, really huge deal also at the same time. In fact, when Jesus said, Jesus didn't say if you're willing to speak, if you're willing to, I'm trying to read the scripture. It says Jesus didn't say if you're willing to speak faith. He said if you're willing to say for a mountain to move, it's going to be moved, right? He didn't say, if you just think about a mountain being moved, it's going to be moved. He said if you speak to this mountain, it will be moved. He didn't say think about it. That's the reason why our words are so important. I believe the way that you talk in a difficult situation has the ability to cause the impossible to be done. Listen, I've seen it happen so many times, and if you guys stick around this youth group long enough, you guys are going to see it happen over and over and over again. God's going to do crazy things. And a part of this is just what happens inside of us when we speak faith in the midst of a difficult day, right? Jesus is saying that impossible things will be done when you speak faith in the midst of a storm. Now, sometimes the impossible thing being done is just you continuing to believe in Him in the midst of your storm, even when the impossible thing that you believe for doesn't happen. Because He's not saying that you're going to get every single thing that your heart desires, right? Thy will be done, not mine will be done. So, we're not just wrapped in some reality distortion field where, I go outside and I pray that my Ford Fusion becomes a Ferrari, right? That's not what God's saying when He says, if you speak to it, this mountain will be moved, boom, the mountain moved, right, I got a Ferrari. That's not what He's saying. We're not believing that faith is just some genie bottle that we rub and then a genie comes out and gives us 3 wishes. Rest in peace, Robin Williams. That's not what we're talking about. Jesus didn't come so we can just have a blank check for any dream. As we follow him, as we go through the hard days, and when those hard days come, and we speak in the midst of our crisis, and we speak in the midst of our storm, the way that we speak in the midst of our difficulty, it can cause something that feels impossible to happen. The whole world would say that it's impossible to be done in Jesus' name. Where you have more to give and more to serve, even when you get bullied at school, even when you get made fun of, even when you get made fun of for your faith, when you ask someone to come to church and they make fun of you. That's an impossible thing being done because of how you speak about it by the world standards. You say things like, I'm not a victim here. I'm not a victim here. God sent me today to this school to reach my peers. God sent me to reach the other students. He sent me to reach the teachers. I'm going to bless this school. I'm going to bless these teachers. I'm going to bless these students. God sent me here to save lives. That's doing the impossible. It's how you speak to your difficulties, because you can't be a victim and a victor at the same time. It's how you speak that can change the future, can literally alter the course of history. You guys can face hardship in your lives, and you guys can say good. You guys can say it's good. I know in the Bible, God says the word good all the time. And I'm not saying it's always good. Sometimes when something horrible happens, it doesn't mean that that's good. But when you say good, you're believing that God's going to do good in this. You got some hardship in your life, it's good. It's good. That's going to be the end. The reason why we say that is because it means that the devil's not going to get the last word in this. Yeah. It means that at the end of the day, God's going to work all this crap, all of this stuff, all of this mess together for his good. I'm going to invite Callie and Tanner to come back up here. This is the third and final point, guys. This is what we're going to conclude on. It's that your words impact you. Say that. Your words impact you. This is the big one, guys. Listen, the number one, this generation, your guys' generation, your guys' anxiety and depression numbers are so much higher than any other generation that's come before you guys. And I think the reason for that is because you guys don't realize that your words impact you. Not just your brothers and your sisters, not just your friends, not just your parents, not just the people on the receiving end of your snarky comments or your harsh texts or your crude jokes that you make. As these words come out of your mouth, they're changing you in the process. Why is that? Well, practically speaking, the person you speak to more than anyone is yourself. Because they say that the majority of talk, experts say the majority of talk is self-talk. It's either internal or external self-talk. If you actually add up the words you speak every day, a lot of it is just muttering and grumbling and talking. How many guys, when you're sitting down in a chair for a long time and you get up and you're like, oh, jeez. It's just like things like that. A lot of self-talk is that, but a lot of times you talk to yourself in your head. At least I know I do. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I know I do. And it got so bad at a point where I just got sick of all the things that I was saying inside of my head. And I had this breaking point where I just realized it, and I just said it out loud. I was just like, whose side are you on? Voice in my head. Whose side are you on? Because I was constantly just hearing things like, you're the worst. You never get this right. You mess up over and over and over again. It doesn't matter how many times you say you're going to change or how many times you pray about it. You're so messed up. You suck. You're a failure. This is terrible. You're never going to be good enough. And I was finally just like, whose side are you on? Voice in my head. Whose side are you on? And I decided on the spot to fire myself as my own personal critic. And 2 seconds later, I hired myself on as my own personal coach. Because there's a big difference between a critic and a coach, right? There's a big difference between a critic and a coach. A critic just sits there on the sidelines and says, bad job. Bad job. You're not good enough. You suck. I don't care. A critic doesn't care if you win or lose. A critic just says bad. They just pass judgment on what happened. But a coach is in your corner, right? A coach has skin in the game. A coach is going home with you. A coach cares about the outcome. He's got blood, sweat, and tears on the line. A coach is saying, come on, you can do better. Yeah, you made a mistake. Yeah, I know you messed up. Yeah, you got knocked down a little bit, but come on. Remember your training. Eye of the tiger. Stick to the plan. You got this. I mean, a coach is a completely different thing than a critic. I tell you what, my life's been a lot different since I fired myself as a critic and hired myself as a coach. Choosing to remember that I speak life to myself. I don't speak death over myself. I think so many people, including myself, get this twisted. We don't realize how much our words mean to ourselves. And when we're constantly speaking death over our life, and we don't realize how powerful our words are, I think that's the reason why there's so many kids that are depressed. Or there's so many kids that have anxiety, because they're constantly telling themselves, I'm not good enough. I'm not as pretty as she is. I'm not as good at sports as he is. I'm not as talented as they are. I'm not as good at this as my brother. I'm not as good at this as my sister. I don't think my parents like me as much as this sibling. We're constantly saying that over ourselves, and we don't realize how powerful our words are. You guys got to stop being your own critic and start being your coach. We need to learn to speak to ourselves and speak life over ourselves, and not just speak life to other people. Yeah, that's important. But the reality is Jesus died for you too. You know, he died for you too. He loves you too. Jesus died for every single one of you guys. He died for everybody that you speak death about, and he died for you too. The Bible says that he loves you. He says that you're his prize. He says that you're the apple of his eye. And he's got plans for you. I'm going to invite you guys to stand up right now.
Got me out here looking blurry.